This video is sponsored by Fantech World, so thank you to Fantech World for sponsoring this video. One Piece fans, do I have a treat for you? Most of us have a computer desk setup at home, and with more webcam tournaments coming up soon, it's time to elevate that setup of yours. So let me introduce you to Fantech World, a gaming peripherals brand from Indonesia, which you know, Southeast Asia represent. They sent me one of their newest products, the One Piece themed desk mat, and since they know I'm a huge Nico Robin fan, they sent me one with the Orobi design. I love this so much. This limited edition desk mat is an official collaboration with Toei Animation, so you know it's legit. With features including an anti-slip base, spill resistant surface, and flat stitch edges, you can definitely upgrade your boring desk setup with their brilliant design. They also have other characters featured as well. Our big bad boy Kaido is here alongside Robin, Sanji, Zoro, and of course our captain himself, Monkey D. Luffy. For those of you who are interested in teaming out your setup, they also have official collaboration products for their mouse and keycap, so you can keep it all on theme. I love supporting Southeast Asian brands on the channel itself, but fret not, they also ship overseas as well. So head on to their website at fantechworld.com or use my affiliate link in the description below to check out their official One Piece themed desk mats. Huge thank you to Fantech World for sponsoring this video, and let's get on to the decks that you should play in OP-07. So since OP-07 is coming out at the end of the month for the English release, this video is going to present to you some deck options that you can try out in OP-07. So let's take a moment, let's forget about OP-08 for a bit, let's forget about RP lore in OP-08 for a little bit, let's talk about OP-07 because the OP-07 metagame was great. There was a lot of varied decks that you can try out, a lot of older decks had a lot of support that you can try out as well. So here are some deck lists or some leaders that I'm going to present to you so that you can try them out in OP-07. Ready? Let's go. Okay, so the first deck or the first leader that I want to recommend is definitely Bonny. This is my hands down my favorite one that I was playing in OP-07. I didn't really use any other deck but Bonny. If you are unsure of the effect, it's one on your opponent attack once per turn, you pay one and you can rest one of your opponent's leader or characters. So it's a very interactive deck in a way that you can kind of control what your opponent is attacking with after the first attack, and then you can rest, use Bonny's ability to rest something else, and it's really great. And this deck is really quite straightforward. If you already have the green pieces like the Bonny Searcher, the Baby 5 Searcher, if you're playing like the Doflamingo variant like this, then you usually only have a couple of pieces from OP-07 to pick up, which is essentially the new super rare Cavendish, which is a very strong card. On play and when attacking, you can V-stand 2 Active Dawn if you have no other Cavendish on the field. This is from EB01, but it is a necessary staple in the Bonny deck. But you have another super rare in the form of Basil Hawkins, which is a very strong card in this deck. And of course Urok, which is a blocker, but at the end of the turn, you can set one of your Dawn cards as active so that you can use Bonny's ability. So the top end of this deck, Bonny just wants to lock things down and then eventually go for game. So you can either grind them out with good old cards like Eustace Captain Kid. If you're a fan of green, if you're a fan of playing Eustace Kid back in the OP-01, OP-02 days, then you can definitely play Eustace Kid back in Bonny. You can lock down your opponent's board with top ends such as Doflamingo, where you can just rest 3 of your opponent's rested characters. And then if you can chain multiple Doflamingos in a row, then that's great. Again, some of the bigger top end decks that doesn't have a lot of removal, let's say something like Black Yellow Luffy, something like Luchi, that does have removal but has harder time getting rid of some of your big costed stuff, then the 9-cost Zoro is a great card to just slam down, wait a turn, and then just start going ham in the next following turn. If the opponent doesn't answer this, it's going to be a game for them essentially. So this is a great card to kind of include. And of course, the good old Holy Jones from OP-06, being able to be rush and also resting 2 of your opponent's characters or Dawn, and then just putting the top card of your life into your hand. This is usually a game finisher card, being able to rest some of the opponent's blockers and then just going for game. This is a great card. So this is my first deck recommendation. There are a lot of variations of Bonny. You can check out OP top decks for some references. This is the version I was almost rocking with. I didn't really play a lot of Holy Jones, but I do recognize its power. And the version that I ran actually did play like the Bonny Searcher and the Baby 5 Searcher. I played a hybrid of Bonny, Supernova Pirates and Kyode family pirates because I really like Doflamingo and I wanted to play in this deck. So this is the first deck or the first leader I would recommend you to play in OP-07. It's a really great deck. It's really fun. And now let's move on to the next one. Now, of course, I have to recommend Rob Luchi, one of the new leaders from OP-07 as well. This is for the Sakazuki fans out there, for the fans of playing black essentially, or the fans of cost reducing cards, because Rob Luchi's innate ability is that when attacking, you trash the top 2 cards of your deck and then you give something -1. Then you combine it with all of the CP support that already exists from OP-03. You have something like Kaku, that's something that KO something 3 or less. You have Khalifa that lets you draw cards and give something -2. We have some new, of course, good old OP-05 Rob Luchi. Y'all can't forget about this. It's really, really great. And I think there's some new additions, especially this Brook from EB01 that is on play and when attacking lets you give something -1 and KO one of your opponent's characters that costs 0. So it's a very cheap and efficient way to KO something of your opponent's side. And there are different versions of Rob Luchi. Some of them don't play the stage, some of them do play any lobby. I think it is necessary to give the additional -2 for some of the bigger decks. Try it out. See what this deck only plays 2 copies, but from OP-07 itself, you have a lot of different variations. Now you see all of the kind of staples. I'm not going to go through all the cards individually. This is just like kind of a video to just tell you what you should be trying out. I'll paste all the links to the decks in the, below. But so one of the new cards from EB01 is Pandine. You return 3 cards with CP in its types from the trash to the bottom of your deck, and then you play up 1 to 4 or lower character card with CP in its type. There you go. I mean, like, it's Rob Luchi. You can use it to play like Khalifa if you need to draw cards. I mean, there are different scenarios for different cases, but yeah, you're playing Rob Luchi. And that's why I said, like, if you're a fan of Sakazuki, if you're already familiar with Sakazuki, this is a similar but different playstyle. You don't get the free draw 1, drop 1, but you do get to fuel your trash with Rob Luchi's leader's ability, and you can take advantage of that with cards like Rebecca, Gecko Moria, of course, you know the power of this super rare as your top end, and some other cards as well. Tempest Kick is kind of the best new event cards in OP-07, being able to draw 1, as well as if you have 10 or more cards in your trash, gives something -3, which is a significant cost, and only for 1 Dawn. Very powerful event card. There are versions that play the new OP-07's 2C as well, so I think this is for like the just an immediate way to KO some of your big stuff. Maybe your opponent is playing something like a I don't know, but I always use Big Mom example, but opposing Gecko Morias, for example, and you don't have enough Dawn minus cost reduction cards, you can just use this as a single pop. And this Monkey D. Luffy from OP-07 is actually really quite interesting because once you cost reduce something, you can attack with this Luffy and then KO something that's cost 2 or less. But mainly Rob Luchi, if you are a fan of Sakazuki, if you're a fan of cost reduction, and if you're a fan of black, playing Gecko Moria, that's your playstyle, you are going to feel right at home with Rob Luchi. And this card is a powerhouse in OP-08 as well, with some of the new additions like Jack from OP-08. So this is a very good leader for you to kind of get accustomed to. Try this out. This is really great. The next deck I want to recommend is, of course, everyone's favorite card. One of everyone's favorite new leaders. It's Monkey D. Luffy. It's Black Yellow Luffy. Just one of the strongest leaders out there, in my opinion. Being able to pump itself up by 2k by using the small brothers effect, and then eventually being a 9k leader, even on your opponent's turn, is just really, really powerful. This card kind of cycles in like resiliency, being at 0 life, using 2, discarding 1, putting 2 5-cost characters. And the reason why I'm recommending this for OP-07 is because this is kind of like one of the newer leaders that have entered the English metagame, and one of the cards that will benefit this deck greatly. I'm not going to go through the deck itself, but it's this Monkey D. Luffy from OP-07. Being able to activate main, place this character in your trash, and if your life is at 2 or less, which if you're in Black Yellow Luffy, you can definitely do that, and then you KO one of your opponent's cost 4 or less characters, then draw 1 card. The one thing that I love about this list, and we did see this in the OP-08 tournament, is the fact that you can combine this with the 10 cost Kuzan. And if this is on the field and giving everything -5 to the cost, you can loop your Monkey D. Luffy and then just keep like spamming it out. You use Luffy, you KO something because everything is -5. You eventually can get it to the 4 or less. And then you use your leader's ability to put small Luffy back into the field, and then put this 5-cost Luffy into your life, and then trash it, get a 2k boost in power to your leader, and then playing this out. If you want a more detailed explanation about Black Yellow Luffy, do let me know in the comments. I have been testing this deck a lot after seeing it being played in Singapore. So I can kind of talk about the nuances, but matchups wise, this deck does really well against something like Gecko Moria, or Gecko Moria based decks, essentially. No, actually, this deck does really well with Gecko Moria, because like Gecko Moria needs to attack, and Luffy wants to be at 0 life, or any leader that needs to attack into this leader, it does really well against, because you can kind of just get your engine rolling, start looping all your 5-cost characters, 5-cost brothers characters, and then just start grinding your opponents out or hitting them hard with 7k, 9k leader attacks. So this is really, really good. The problem with Black Yellow Luffy that you have to recognize is that people can eventually learn how to play against this deck. So you gotta be careful and try to play to your outs, find all the different variations of what you want to be playing, because the great thing about this deck is its versatility. You have Sabo for defensive play, you have the 5-cost Ace if you want to go more aggressive in a rush, and you have, if you're going for a more mid-rangey game, you can use either Luffy to get more attacks in. So Black Yellow Luffy, definitely one of the strongest decks in OP-07, so you definitely should try it out. The next deck that you should be playing in OP-07 is none other than Doflamingo. Yes, I know a lot of people would rather play Boa Hancock, and Boa Hancock is really, really strong in OP-07 as well. Blue just have a lot of tools, but the reason why this deck works is because there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of 7 Warlords of the Sea support, mainly the best one being Jinbei, being able to on-play, play up to 1 cost 4 or lower 7 Warlords of the Sea type character other than Jinbei from your hand. So imagine you attack with Doflamingo, you reveal a Jinbei, you play a Jinbei, and then you play out a Edward Weevil with Jinbei's ability, you get to draw 1. You can pretty much swarm the board and overwhelm your opponent this way. Also with blue, you have a lot of removals such as Gravity Blade, which is super strong, especially against some of the more aggressive decks. Even like opposing Doflamingo decks, or maybe even against Black Yellow Luffy, you can put the 5-cost characters to the bottom of the deck, and Luffy doesn't have access to them in the trash. So that's really good. Red Rock for the kind of straight up removal, and the new Boa Hancock as well, just being able to lock one of your opponent's characters down and place a 1-cost character to the bottom of his owner's deck that may come into handy as well. It's really, really quite good. This, I mean, if this was in Sakazuki, man, that'd be crazy. And of course, you got the top end. Some of the new ones, I think this OP-07 Crocodile is a 2k counter, but you can potentially use it as an on-play to return 1 cost 2 or lower character to the owner's hand. You can use it to bounce back certain things, Perona if you need to search or need to rearrange. And I think because it's blue, you have tools like disruptive tools such as Pudding. This is a very good staple to have because it can kind of mess up your opponent's plan. And this version runs the 10-cost Kaido. I think some new Doflamingo players have been using 10-cost Kaido in their list just as a way to replenish their hand and have a big body on board. And one of the best cards that I would have to say in OP-07 that can catch a lot of people by surprise is of course Perfume Femur, which is essentially almost like the Diable Jambe. Up to one of your 7 Warlords of the Sea type leaders or character gains plus 2k power during this turn, then your opponent cannot activate blocker when the selected card attacks. So imagine if your opponent is at 0 life, you use this, put all your dons onto something like a Boa Hancock or like a 4-cost character, and then just start swinging for life. They would usually be caught off guard, and then you can win the game that way. I think the great thing about this Doflamingo is that it's sort of like a cult favorite from what I've seen on Twitter and around like what people have been playing. Yeah, Doflamingo is definitely like a favorite deck for many, and people have a very strong attachment to the 7 Warlords of the Sea deck. So this is a great leader to kind of bring back in the OP-07 meta game, and it's really quite strong as well. Now, since we're talking about blue decks, there is a little bit of a boost in Nami, and I know I don't want to kind of recommend people to play it because I don't like playing against Nami, but I know there are a lot of people who love playing Nami. We have new cards from OP-07 such as this card, Megarite, blocker, and on play draw a card, so it does what Nami wants to do. Also, the new Searcher, Gloriosa, that lets you search an Amazon Lily or Kuja Pirates, which is, Megarite right here, and surprisingly, also, this list doesn't, yeah, there you go, Lovely, which is also part of the Kuja Pirates, which is a card that Nami inherently already runs. So you get to search for a few targets in this deck, which is quite great. There's also the new this event from EB-01, which is extremely powerful, by the way. Being able to give one of your leader or give your Nami leader plus 1000 for this turn, not for this battle, but for the rest of the turn. Meaning that if you're playing against something like Doflamingo, we're playing something like Red Purple Law, then all those 5k attacks immediately are null. Your opponent has to expend a little bit more Dawn to kind of attack into the Nami, swinging for 6k, and then you can just use your events to sort of mill or draw more cards to kind of get the win, which is really great. And of course, if you want to kind of go for memes, you can always catch people off guard. It is searchable by Gloriosa, and you can kind of win this way as well. There is this OP-07 card, Snake Dance, which lets you, it's a 2 cost plus 4k and lets you return one of your characters to its owner's hand. Same thing, you're using it to return sorry, not Apis, but you're using it to return like Kaya, you're using it to return your Marguerite so that you can play it out and draw more cards. Nami, just doing Nami things. The only reason why I'm recommending this is because there's a variant, the Kuja Pirates variant, that lets you kind of draw more cards essentially, and it's a different variation of Nami. So yeah, this is just a recommended thing. There you go. Try out Nami. Now, there are 3 leaders that I really didn't talk about. I mean, okay, yeah, Ball Hancock plays the same way. I'm not going to show a list because it's your standard blue good stuff list with the Ball Hancock super rare removal. It's kind of similar to like that Doflamingo, except less, you know, 7 Warlords of the Sea, more like just pure control. But Dragon, if you want to play Dragon in OP-07, you can. Same with Foxy, same with Vegapunk. The reason why I'm not recommending you to play it is because the varied metagame will tend to change. Foxy, for the memes, definitely if you want to play it. It's just not as powerful as the deck. It's not as powerful. It's not a powerful leader, but you can definitely play it if you want to. If you like Foxy and you want to do it for the memes, do it. Go ahead. Dragon is a very aggressive red deck, and you can build it in a lot of ways. Fortunately, like, it's being overshadowed by some of the more aggressive decks like that out there, such as Red Purple Law. So play it if you want to, but just understand that it's not as strong as something like Red Purple Law, which is the case for many of these decks. And Vegapunk is actually the second deck that I played in OP-07, and I really did test this out aggressively. It loses a lot of steam, and you need a lot of cards, but if you're planning to play a deck only in OP-07, you just need to pick up the yellow cards in OP-07, and you can essentially build your Vegapunk deck easily. Maybe 9 cost Yamato super rare that lets you gain 1, and also the 10 cost secret rare Ace from OP-07 is what you need to kind of make it a little bit better in the top end. But other than that, Vegapunk, play it if you like Vegapunk. Just know that it runs out of gas really fast. Wait till OP-08, it gets a little bit better, and yeah, that's about it. But yeah, the artwork, very great stuff. So those are just some of the more popular decks that were apparent in OP-07. Now, I'm not saying that that's all of them. There's a lot. And the great thing about the One Piece card game is that you can choose the leader that you like, play it really well, build your own list, and then just try to play it out. I'm just recommending you to play these decks because they are fun and they are new, and you can use some new cards from OP-07. I will try to do like a ranking tier list for OP-07, even though the few top ones are already kind of predetermined. Red Purple Law will be kind of your biggest contender if you are playing this deck, as long as well as like Rob Luchi a little bit and Black Yellow Luffy, and this will kind of go roll over in OP-08. But don't let that deter you from playing the decks that you want. Like Bonny, I still rock Bonny. It's still one of my favorite decks till this date, and you should play out the character that you want to play in OP-07. So I hope this video helps you in terms of finding out what you want to play in OP-07. These are just some recommendations. If you have any, please let me know in the comment section below, or share it with the community so that they know your variation of the list that they want to play for OP-07. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.